Hi friends, today we're going to be talking about how to find your own creative style and voice through your gift. So last week we talked about creativity and how to use that as a healing modality or a way for your own self-expression and to really find yourself again. So this week we're going to be diving in as to how to actually develop your own style and voice and your own original work through what you create in the world. And whenever I say creativity, it doesn't always mean something related to the traditional art sense. So for example, it doesn't only mean art, it doesn't only mean drawings, paintings, writing, poetry. It can mean a lot of different things. Art is not bound to anything specific, which is why it's called art. There are no rules in it. So it could be things like mountain biking, it could be things like traveling, vlogging, it could be like growing your own plants. Like that's your own art form. And so whenever I'm talking about this, just apply it to whatever interests you, because everything can be a work of art. So the first thing you really want to pay attention to as you're going down this path of just expressing yourself more, creating more space for yourself, healing, you're going to be finding that you are more sensitive to a lot of things that bother you, but also you're going to be a lot more sensitive to things that you do enjoy. And so although it's good to work on the things that are bothering you and frustrating you, it's important to balance the equation on the other side. So when you're developing your own sense of style and your own sense of taste in your own creations, the first thing you want to do, if you're absolutely starting from scratch and kind of like a beginner, then the best thing you can do is to control your inputs, because inputs lead to outputs. And what I mean by inputs is, what are you consuming? Because what you consume is what goes into your mind and what you start to ruminate on. And that's really what shapes your own perception and your own sense of style. So if you're consuming a lot of things that you don't particularly enjoy, or that it kind of bothers you or things like that, that probably will lead you to not feeling inspired to create. On the other hand, if you start consuming more things and being more like a curator more than anything else of things that you enjoy, things that you like, other people that inspire you, art pieces that really resonate with you, that will then start to shape your taste. And in art, the most important thing is taste. It's not necessarily how good you are at a specific technique. It doesn't matter about the gear that you have, the paintbrushes, the lens that you have, or the pen that you're using, any of those things, or even the vocabulary that you're using if you're writing. None of that matters as much as your own personal taste. For example, when I wrote my books, they're very, very simple and very easy to read. Most of the words that I use, an elementary school kid can understand it. And so to some people, that might not be sophisticated enough for them, and that's perfectly okay. But then for another large majority of people, they really enjoy that style of writing because it's so simplistic and it doesn't overcomplicate. And so neither is right or wrong. There are amazing poets and writers that use very, very extravagant vocabulary, and you can really picture everything that's going on. And that's amazing. And so that's a different type of art form. But for me, the way that I've just really cultivated my own sense of style and taste is by, one, consuming things that I enjoy, which I really enjoy, brevity, and that was my mic that just fell. So I really enjoy brevity and just simplicity. And so if you read any of my poetry pieces, then you'll see how short and concise those are, and sometimes it's even one line long. And to me, that's poetry. And again, like I said, there's no rules to this. And so it seems to help a lot of people. I enjoy writing it. It resonates with me. And that's another piece of art, which is make something that you like personally. Don't try to make your art to try to impress other people, to try to fit into something, or to try to win an award or whatever it is. Those aren't really important to art. And what's most important is if you enjoy, if you resonate with it, if it moves you emotionally, and if you're able to capture that feeling that you felt as you were making the actual art piece. And so if you're able to do that, that is art. That is the best way I can explain how to create something. And so, like I was saying before, control your inputs, start consuming things that really inspire you, that you want to make things like, emulate those things. And the more that you're able to replicate those pieces that you really enjoy, then you can move into the next stage, which is beyond just the beginner phase. And so you're going to move into something called more of like the mastery phase. And so in that phase, you want to start to let go of a lot of those inputs that you've been consuming, because then you'll start to realize that the more that you consume, the more that you create more of the things that are like the things that you consume. And so you can start to feel a little bit discouraged because you don't feel like you have your own sense of style, and that everything you make is just a duplicate of something you've seen. So at that point, I talk about this in my previous video as well, where the information diet becomes very important. And so instead of consuming a lot, now you're starting to strip away a lot of the things that you are consuming, and to, instead of looking outside for inspiration, you're looking inside and really developing your own way of making art. So in this case, you have the vehicle for which you want to create in. So what's that vehicle? What's that medium that you love to create through? So for me, that's writing. So for other people, it's dancing. For other people, it's baking. Whatever it is, find your medium for your own creativity. After that, look at what specific style you enjoy most. So for me, when I'm writing, I really enjoy writing nonfiction, but also writing poetry. That's a specific style that I tend to enjoy, that I consume a lot of, and then that's the avenue that I go down. After that, you want to focus on personal relevance and preference. So we'll start with your own personal preferences. So that really begins with starting with your taste. So what do you enjoy most about that specific piece? So for me, it's writing and poetry, but what about poetry do I like more of? Do I like it when it rhymes? Do I like it when it's short or long, or when it tells a story, or when it has a lot of emotion? Or what is it specifically that moves me most about this specific poetry? So that's what I mean by personal preference. The more specific you can get, the more original you can make with your art. And so after that, it's preference. So those two are really, they go hand in hand. And so preference and relevance. So the other thing that I would say is, once you've developed your own sense of preferences, then you can even get more specific with your art. So for me, it was writing, and then poetry, and then writing short form poetry, very, very short form, and making it very, very simple. After that, my own specific personal relevance to it, which sounds like an interesting word to use, but what I mean by relevance is like, why does it matter to you? Why does writing or baking or dancing or whatever it is, why does that matter to you specifically? And for me, the relevance for my own writing, my own preferences as well, is spirituality and psychology and just about the human condition. And so with those different preferences, taste, style, my own personal relevance, right, to what I'm creating, all of those variables come together to combine to make this very, very original piece of work. And so most people, when they're struggling with creating something that's like them, that feels more like an extension of them or an authentic expression of themselves, they tend to struggle with creating something like that because they're only focusing on maybe two of the variables. So let's say they enjoy writing, they're focusing on writing and then poetry, and that's basically it. Or even maybe if they add a third variable like love. If there's no other variables in there and they're not getting specific enough, it could sound like everything else out there, and you don't really feel like you're creating something true to you. And so that's the time to get very, very specific in terms of what you're creating. So what specifically about love do you like writing about? So is it love between two significant others? Is it love between you and your parents or siblings? Or is it love between two people that have been together for over 40 years and married? And so what specific type of love? Is it heartbreak? Is it trauma in the past of loving someone that doesn't love you back, or loving someone that abuses you? Like, you can kind of see that when you get more specific, things can get very, very interesting. And so if you're struggling with that, just get really specific. And I have another video that talks about the principle of specificity. And in that specific video, if you watch that video with this specific context of trying to become more creative and trying to find your own style and your own voice, that is a great video to watch to really hone in and create something very, very original and true to you. So that really is my process that I've used to come up with my own style, my own expression of really what I love. And so Let me know if that helps, and leave down in the comments below what you would like to see next, and if you want me to talk more about some of creativity or some of my process for creation or anything like that. I think a lot of the videos are going to lean a little bit more towards creation, as I've talked a lot about on this channel, of just the destruction side of our mind, where how negative thinking and all that unnecessary commentary can really start to cause us to suffer. And so if you're struggling a lot with anxiety or depression or anything like that, watch my other videos, and it will help you a lot with overcoming those things. And then once you're able to create space for yourself in your mind where it's not constantly negative chatter, in that place and in that stage in time, you can then come to these videos. And I just love that space that we've created once we let go of the negative thinking. And so with that, that's what we can use to create. So that's always first, whenever you're trying to create something, is always make space in your mind and let go of whatever you're thinking. So with that, my friends, thank you so much, and I'll see you guys in the next one.